I am even going to, I'm going to go even further. Give me just a second here. I'm going to go back and I'm going to get rid of the metadata file. And I'm going to open up the raw file from scratch. Church Training Academy. Here, I'll let you watch me do this so it won't be so boring. Church Training Academy. Church Media Guys Show. It's the episode with me and Jeanette. Okay, there's all these photos. So just and this is also another little lesson here. When you're doing thumbnails for like YouTube, like when you do, whether it's testimonial videos, whether it's anything, a video that you want people to see and click on YouTube, you need to pay attention to your thumbnails and do your thumbnails on purpose. Now, Justin and I are doing stuff for our company here, for our YouTube channel and all that. So I literally, every time I go out in the garage and I have my daughter or my wife shoot a bunch of photos of me on my set out there, trying to come up with the right thing, the right thing that's going to work, something that I'm going to go, okay, this will make a great eye-catching thing. So I eventually, that could work. Let's see, I eventually came down to this one right here. Okay, so there's that little XMP file. I'm just going to move that out of the way, and so this should open up fresh in Photoshop using the raw importer, which is a big chunk of Lightroom. So Photoshop. And is it, can you guys, are you guys able to see this menu up here at the top, the zoom menu?
I mean, we see the camera raw 11.1 Canon EOS 5D Mark II.
Okay, so because the zoom controls are sitting on top. I just want to make sure it wasn't obstructing anything. Okay.
We see everything.
All right, so here it is. So here's the raw photo taken with my 5D Mark III. My daughter standing on a stepladder. What's cool, and you can do this when you're importing stuff into Lightroom as well, is you can check your white balance. So this is the white balance as shot. I could do auto, and it's going to calculate and go, okay, look, there you go. That actually looks nice. I could say, hey, since I have 55K lights in there, let's say fluorescent. Okay, that looks good. All right. I like to keep it as shot and then play with it a little bit. So let's bring that temperature down. You see, I can take the temperature all the way up and take the temperature all the way down. So I'm going to set the temperature maybe right around there. What happens if I bring up the magenta a little bit? Okay, let's expose it a little more. Is it overexposed, underexposed? What do I need to do? So just like in aperture, you can adjust exposure and such. So I'm going to pull the exposure up, pick up the contrast maybe a little bit. I might mess with that later. Is it not? Hello. Are we not grabbing? Is my battery going out on my mouse? I swear it better not be. For some reason the controls aren't responding. What, did I miss something? The heck? Sorry, guys. That's weird.
And now we learn the love-hate relationship with Adobe.
I don't understand what just happened. I mean, I'm literally perplexed. I mean, it's been like 6 days since I closed or since I opened it. So hang on. I don't think I've rebooted in that long. Okay. So it's closed. All right. So we'll start with Photoshop. That was really weird.
How much RAM do you have on your computer?
This has 32. I'm gonna
I would
punch,
be saying with all those Adobe apps open.
yeah, I'm gonna punch it up to 64 though. But it's 32, and the system drive is a 500 gig NVMe SSD. So it's pretty snappy. There we go. All right, so pull that down, push that up just a little bit, tweak the exposure a little bit, the contrast a little bit. I'll pull down the highlights. I can blow out the highlights. I'll do that later, actually. So I'm going to pull the highlights down a little bit. With the shadows, play with that just a little bit. Okay, I'm going to punch up the clarity just a little bit. I usually start pulling up that vibrance really good. Dave, why are you like making it really vibrant? And a little bit later, I'm going to ask you, why are you doing like oversaturating everything? Because people watch YouTube a lot on their phones, and when you start crushing these pixels down, you need to be able to stand out. Some of that data and definition gets lost as those pixels get crushed down. So when you oversaturate in real resolution, it shrinks down to being able to pop in the midst of a whole bunch of others as you're scrolling around. Let's see. Okay, so details. Pick up the sharpening just a bit. Now I'm going to play with the luminance. And you see my reds. Okay, I won't be able to run for office. Let's see.
And these tools look exactly the same for the Lightroom, by the way, for Brian to know.
One of the things that I noticed about this is, like, if I pull the oranges out of my skin, no, I'm not trying to do blackface, but you can see that that the skin tone is made up of a whole bunch of other colors as well, even though it looks dominantly orange or tan. So you got a lot of yellows in there. So as you start, and you know, it's like you notice splotchiness, like splotchiness on my cheeks there, splotchiness up here. So be aware of these things so that when the time comes that you need to start cleaning things up, you have some direction. I'm going to zoom out just a little bit. All right, so I want to pop the greens just a little bit more. Make sure that I can key that out. All right. Now, let me take a look at my eyes. I have blue eyes, and I've got a blue thing on. I like for my eyes to pop. So, all right. See how I'm messing with the background there. So I've got some some color LED lights on here. I want to tweak and try to pull those out if I can. Okay, so I'm content with that. I'm not doing any split toning. Don't need to do any lens correction, really. I could add grain if I wanted to, add film grain, but I don't want to do that. Okay, so we're done. I'm going to open the image. And there it is in Photoshop. Now, just to prove what I was talking about, here's that XMP file that created it again. And when you look at it, it's a ton of EXIF data and then a whole bunch of things. It says, let's see, set the tint to +17, the saturation to 0, the sharpness to 47, the luminance smoothing at 0, the color noise reduction at 25. These are all the settings, right? You could literally sit down and type this out yourself and then open it up and it would look like that. It's pretty cool. Anyway, so now we're in Photoshop, okay? Here's Photoshop. We've got our tools right here. Got some Windows palettes and stuff over here. Here's actions. These are macros, basically. If I were to play this, it would start trimming and moving this around and turn it into iTunes scaled artwork. Okay, I was telling you about the libraries. So Photoshop has libraries, and it lets you store a whole bunch of stuff. So Justin and I use our images a whole lot. So I have a whole bunch of different versions of images of us that have been cut out so that we can move them around as we want to. Church Training Academy has colors that we use. So if I want to use the Church Training Academy orange, then I can type in whatever color I want and then select that type. When I hit this, it'll change it to that color. It's really cool. Here's the fonts that we like to use. Here's other pieces of clip art or whatever that we use. Here's the YouTube end screen thing that I use. What's really cool, I think I still have it open. Let's see here in Premiere Workspaces. Okay, let me. I'll just bring up the show here. I need to reset my workspaces, so bear with me just a second. Workspace. Because I'm split across 2 monitors. So editing. There it is. It's all okay. So here's Adobe Premiere. So I go over here to my libraries palette, and here's the libraries, the exact same stuff from Photoshop. So I could now take something that I created in Photoshop, a lower third or this joint picture of Justin and I could drag it onto the timeline, and it's a common piece that I may use and push around at certain points as a common asset. So that's what I was talking about. That's the only thing I'm really using the Adobe Creative Cloud storage is for that kind of stuff. Okay, just that info. All right, so here's our picture. The first thing I do is I duplicate the background layer. These are our layers. Okay, so I've got a layer on top. In fact, I'll move it. Let me turn it on. Ha ha ha. Turn it on. Okay, so now I've got a layer sitting on top of another layer. Okay. Now, Dave, why did you duplicate the background? So that if everything goes wrong and I totally screw this image up, I've still got my base layer there. I can always start over. So there's my background layer. First thing I need to do is I need to get rid of the green in my tablet here. A couple of different ways to do it. I can use the magic wand tool, and I'm telling it that I want to set it for like a tolerance of, say, 25. So it'll fluctuate between whatever exact piece of green I click on. It'll vacillate back and forth, a little bit brighter, a little bit lower, and get a nice chunk of it. In fact, you guys can see it's selected all the way up to the corner of the bezel here where the actual screen goes underneath the bezel, and it darkens a little bit. So how do you expand that? You can expand that selection. So I can go to Select, Modify, Expand, and let's expand it by 3 pixels. That's almost there. All right. So let's just use that. Now, I'm going to delete that. And when you see the checkered background, that shows that it's transparent. So if I turn on that background layer, the image is underneath it. The original image is underneath it. But now I have my area of transparency here. Now I still got some of this green here. So usually I just grab onto my lasso tool, and this is a linear lasso tool that lets me go down this straight edge, go down this one, go up, and then over. And now I can just delete a little bit, move it just a hair. Now I've gotten rid of most of my green, and I'm good. This is good enough. Okay, so now I have that taken care of. Let's go find that other picture. I did a ridiculous picture that is going to sit on, there it is. Which one's more clear? Okay, so I'm going to use that one. That is the one that's going to sit on the iPad screen. So let's open it up. It's going to bring up the camera raw importer. And I'm just going to tweak a little bit, just like I did with the other. The vibrance. Okay. I'm only going to be concerned with that. So let's tweak that. We're going to bring up the purples a little bit, bring up the blues a little bit. Okay, and open the image. All right, so I need to clean this up a little bit. All right, first things first, I got some blemishes. Oh, dear God, he's got blemishes. Yes, I'm 46. I'm getting blemishes. So let's get rid of some of these blemishes. Let's start by duplicating the layer so that it's out of the way. And I have a background to go back to. In fact, I'm going to rename this to Dave's face. Now, a couple of different things here. I want my eyes to pop out. I've been drinking a lot of tea. I need to fix those teeth. And I need to get rid of some age spots here. So we've got this great little tool over here, which is the healing brush tool. And if I hold down over it, I get the spot healing tool. I get the healing brush tool. I got patch. I got content aware. I got red eye removal. Really cool tools here. So spot healing. Let me show you that. Let's activate that layer. And let's go find, there's a freckle right here, okay? So let's get in on that freckle. Okay. There is this little freckle right here that I want to get rid of. I don't like that freckle. We're getting rid of it. Spot, you see the size of the area? See the size of that circle that I'm moving around on the screen? That is the brush size. So I can use my left and right open bracket, closed bracket. I can use those to shrink the brush size. So I'm going to go down to just about the size of this little freckle. And when I click, all it did was gathered color and texture from around that area and pasted it inside there so that it matched. Very simple. Very, very simple. Really cool. Really cool. Now, let me show you another one. We got this little spot right here, this big old liver spot or whatever the heck it's called. All right, so we'll try the content aware thing, okay? I'm just going to select this spot, and then I'm going to fill, which for me is shift backspace, and I can fill it with whatever I want. The foreground color, which is yellow, you can see that over here. I can fill it with the background color, which is white. I can choose a color. I can do a pattern. I can do 50% gray. You know, so let's fill it with black. Okay. Okay, so it's now it's filled with black. Oh, that's useless. So I'm going to undo. But I can fill that selection in with whatever I need. In this case, I'm going to say content aware, which is kind of like the healing brush. So it's going to look out here. In fact, it's small enough. It may not. Sometimes if it's too close, it may end up grabbing something you don't want, like the rim of my glasses. But content aware, there you go. It just looked around the area around here. Every now and then, if you get closer to something drastically different, like the hair, it may pull some of that hair in, and you got to tweak it up a little bit. But anyway, it got rid of that little annoying spot of mine. Okay, so there we go. That is some blemish removal. Let's zoom back out. All right, need to fix the teeth. Cannot have yellow teeth. Dave has yellow teeth. Holy cow. Dave eats butter by the sticks. Not really. I don't. Seriously, I'm serious. I don't. I'm going to use the selection tool, and I'm just going to click around here inside the edge of my mouth. And I'm just going to select the area that my teeth are in. Doesn't have to be exactly precise, but I definitely want to not get the rim of my mouth there. And I don't want to get the so much of my tongue. This can be painstaking, but it's okay. Not murder. And I'm clicking along as I go. I know you probably aren't hearing my clicks, but each little time I pause, I click and I can go a different direction, right? So I got that spot, back over here, and then complete it. All right. And that is that. Now, I'm also going to go do these up here. So I'm going to take a look at my cursor here. I'm going to hold down the shift key. Do you see how the little plus sign got on there? So now I can add to the selection. So I could actually like expand the selection out if I wanted to. But in this case, I'm going to keep this selected and add to the stuff I'm selecting. So I'm going to get back up here, and now I can just add in my upper teeth. Now I could do these separate, but I would prefer to just keep them on their own layer, not an upper tooth layer and a lower tooth layer. That increases the chance that I won't be able to match them later. And let's just go right there, and let's say that's that. I'm not even going to worry about the hair for my mustache creeping in. There we go. Now I have the teeth selected. So edit, copy, or Command C, Control C. So I've copied that, and then Command V or edit, Control V or Shift paste or whatever. I'm going to paste it in. I know you didn't even see that, did you? But now I have a layer that is nothing but my teeth. Okay. I'm going to, let those stay right there. So see, I've just got teeth there. So now let's brighten them up a little bit. In fact, let's call it teeth. How do you brighten up your teeth? Well, first thing I'm going to do, because Photoshop is really cool and really smart, I'm going to go to the image menu and I'll go down to auto tone. And it is going to just basically white balance. That's cool. Image auto color. Let's see what that does. Ooh, that worked out really good. They're just they're whiter, but they're not like you just got your teeth whitened white. Let's go to image adjustments. And let's go to, we can play with levels a little bit. There we go. Now it looks like good, healthy teeth. Not Dave drinks a lot of tea. Let's do the same thing with the eyes. Go back to the original, and I'm going to kind of outline my eye here with the lasso tool. And I'm going to go under right there. And that's one eye. Hold down the Shift key, go over here and get this other one. Right there along the eye line. Okay. And I'm just going to copy that, and I'm going to paste that. And now I have a layer called eyes. So if I turn this off, we've got eyes and teeth. All right. So let's select the eyes. I'm just going to move those up. So let's select the eyes and let's start playing with their color. Here's something really cool. With these layers, I can actually do an adjustment that is going to be on the layer that actually gives me a lot more control. So I'm just going to add an adjustment layer on top of eyes. And I'm going to do, let's just do hue and saturation. And there's this great little thing where I can actually, it says this adjustment affects all layers below it, which means anything below this is going to be affected by these changes that I make here. Or I could lock it so that it is, there we go. It is only going to affect the layer directly beneath it, which is the eyes. So now let's play with the eye color. In fact, let's colorize my eyes. What do you want them to be? Red Demon Dave. Ah! All right, let's go up to the blue. That's way too much because you can now see the hard. It's not as subtle. You can see the hard edges around it. Let's leave that. Pull that saturation down a little bit. Blow it out. Really get down. Be black eyes. There we go. And pull that saturation down just a little bit more. Okay. Now, here is original eyes, colored eyes. Ta-da! Original teeth, cleaned up teeth. There you go. That one is done. Now, I'm going to take this and I'm going to make this into a group by selecting all these things. Click on my menu here, new group from layers, and it's basically just going to bundle all this. Dave's face. It's going to bundle it all into a folder. So now it's it's all in one piece. And I'm going to drag it over to the other photograph right there. And you can see it's sitting on top. I don't want it to sit on top. First things first, I'm going to shrink it down some so that I can get it placed. It's going to be right around there. All right, now I'm going to move it underneath this layer, and it is now sitting inside the iPad because the iPad has that transparent layer. I mean, we cut that little space out, and now it's sitting in there. So now, how do I get it to like match up good so that it's the right dimensions of the iPad? Very easy. Edit, transform, distort. And I'm just going to grab these corners and match them up with the corners of my screen. There we go. Now the dimensions match. Awesome. Now, let's just enlarge it some. And there you go. There's our image. Perfect. Now, I'm going to grab these and I'm going to put them in a group. New group from layers. The whole enchilada. All right, first things first, I'm going to save this and we're going to call it Dave Face Thumbnail Mockup for Training. Okay. And it's saving my PSD file. Great. All right, now, got to build a thumbnail. So, going to go File, New. My thumbnail is going to be 1280 by 720. And I'm going to make it 300 dots per inch. There's the thumbnail. I'm going to go back over here and I'm going to grab this. Remember, we grouped it all into a little folder, so it's real easy to move around. And I'm just going to take it and drag it over to this one and drop it in there. And you can see it's humongous because it's a high resolution image. So now I just need to shrink it down and get it composed in this frame as I want it to be. Chris, are you falling asleep?
Just a little bit, but it's very entertaining.
Are you learning anything?
A little, actually, just seeing a different workflow.
Okay. All right, and that's how we're going to do it. Great. Okay, let's add some text. Just going to click on my text tool. And text is humongous. Let's drag it down to something easy to use. And this was about screen time. Screen time. Oh, it's way down there. Kills is what I'm going to call it. Why is it down there, Dave? Where did it go? It went because I've got a huge amount of gap in between each row. There we go. Screen time kills. And let's select screen. And I'm going to increase the size of it so that it matches the borders of the other. And I'm going to click on time kills. And I'm going to decrease the amount of space in between the lines. And now I have a piece of text sitting on a layer that I can move around and place wherever I want. Let's just say we're going to place it right there. And we're going to make a layer style, which is cool. This is a really easy way to put a stroke around it, inner shadow, to change the color over it, or to put a gradient on it, or put a drop shadow. Let's put a drop shadow. So now I can just move and see the numbers are moving around as I'm dragging my shadow and placing it exactly where I want it to be. That'll work. And let's say I wanted to do a stroke on it. Well, that's a little bit too much of a stroke. It's going to give me a stroke. So let's just do it. There we go. That works. Do I want to do it outside or do I want to do it inside? No, I want to do it outside. Do I want to do it center? Nah, I want to do it outside. So the stroke's going to wrap around the outside. Done. Place that right there. Now, here's the next step that I take. This is not, you can do what I'm getting ready to do. You can do it in Photoshop by jumping through a whole bunch of hoops, but I have a plugin that makes it work a lot easier. Okay. I'm going to duplicate the whole enchilada group. Just turn that off. Again, I have a place to start back over with if I need to. I'm going to take this one, the copy of it. I'm going to take the copy, leaving the text out. Text is still all by itself, but the actual image, the composite image I've made, and I'm going to make it a smart object. What is a smart object? It basically turns it into its own photograph or its own image file. Okay? So convert to smart object. Okay. Now, I know it's hard to see, but down here, there's a little icon tells you it's a smart object. If I double click on it, it's going to bring it up as its own file. Okay. I don't want to, I don't need to mess with that. Okay. So here's my smart object, which means I can do a filter, and the filter is going to filter it as if it's just one single photograph, not a whole bunch of different independent layers. So the filter I use is from Topaz Labs, and it's called Adjust 5. It's going to launch up, brings up a little editing window here, and I've got a whole bunch of different presets, stylized things where it does a whole bunch of different stuff to it. Really cool filters. Some of it's really, really useful. Some of it's a great place to start. You know, if I chose comic book, then I could come over here and start, you know, tweaking all the settings and get it exactly the way I wanted it to be, you know, for whatever I was doing. Okay. I have been using, I think it was under classic. Was under classic? Brilliant. No, what was it? Toned. No. Vibrant. Come on. Stylized. No. HDR. There it was. Dynamic brightness. So I choose the dynamic brightness one. But again, there's a whole bunch of different, you can see the little previews there. A whole bunch of different other ones that you can do. That's really saturated. In fact, it's kind of cruddy, saturated looking. In fact, you know what? I'm going to do something else. Watch this. I cancel out of that. Remember I was telling you about some of the splotchiness in my face? Let's see if we can fix that with a different filter. Again, this is not in Photoshop. It's an add-on filter, but I love it. It's called Clean from Topaz. Clean. And it is really cool. You can do all that, you know, like blemish removal, airbrush look, you know, make the strength be ridiculous. You know, you can do that kind of stuff if you want. You could like do like cartoon style stuff, you know, all kinds of really cool stuff. Okay. I'm basically going to be using it to like kind of even the skin tones maybe a little bit, smooth a little. In fact, the way I have always done it is in the cartoon selection, and I pull the strength down. That's a little too much. Just at one. Tweak the threshold. Tweak the threshold. See, that helps a little bit. So if we look at the original, look at the processed, original, processed, see it smooth some of that stuff out just a little bit. See how it looks on angry face. See, there we go. Now I'm just going to hit OK. It's going to apply that filter. And then I'm going to go to filter. I'm going to go back over to Topaz Adjust. I'm going to do that HDR dynamic brightness thing. All right, let's zoom in a little bit. 50%. All right, let's play with the exposure. Play with the contrast. A little too much. Protect the highlights. There we go, and that's what I'm looking for. And boom. It's a little oversaturated. In fact, we can even tweak up the saturation if we want to because we're doing a YouTube thumbnail. So I can go to Adjust, Hue, and Saturation. Or let's start with Vibrance. And we're going to make sure the Vibrance is attached to that layer only. Pick up the Vibrance a little bit. It's a lot, isn't it? oversaturate just a little bit. Again, of course, I'm doing all this on purpose. And the last thing is to do a sharpen, and I use a smart sharpen. Again, because this is going to be a YouTube thumbnail, it's going to be, no one's ever going to see it at full resolution. They're going to be looking at tiny pictures. So you sharpen it kind of to the point of discomfort when you're looking at it at full resolution. And there you go. I have the image that I'm looking for, and it's time to save it. Screen time, thumb. Okay, there you go. That's done. I hope that was helpful. Anybody have any questions? I've not been monitoring the chat.
What is your export process?
My export process is actually very simple. File, export, export as. I do 3 versions for what we do, which is we post to the website, we post to YouTube, and then we send an email. Okay. So the very first one is the one for YouTube. I want it to be the highest quality that I possibly can have for a JPEG, so it stays at 100%. I care less about the file size. And I'm going to export it. And let's see, in here, I'll just make a folder. This would be in my exports folder. By this time, I would not be still in where my original photos were. By the way, I always name my export folder with a leading underscore or 2, so that it's always at the top of the folders when I go into a folder. And screen time thumb, open bracket, YouTube, and save. Then I got to make the one for the website. I don't want a huge image that loads slowly. So it's still going to be 1280 by 720. That's our thumbnail size that we use. And I'm going to drop it down to about 60%. Let's look at the number, 239. And then if I could get it smaller and it still look good and sharp and everything, I would do that. Drop it down to 50%, 179. Okay. Resample. Bicubic automatic is the way it's resampling is selected by default. I always do bicubic sharper, so it just adds a little more sharpening as it shrinks it. I'm going to export that. This one is going to be open bracket site. This one that gets uploaded to the website. And then I need to do the one for email, which is a smaller one. Export as JPEG, 50%. And for the size, I'm going to do 640 by 360 by cubic sharp. That's already selected because I selected it last time. And let's see, can we do 45%? I'm looking at this number over here. Let's see, 46K. Okay, so that's not a large file to email. So that'll be good. It still looks good. Still going to show up good in your emails. Export, thumb, bracket, email. Those are the 3 that I do. Now, if I am going to also do, let's say, excuse me, if I'm going to do use this as iTunes art, because you can, have a thumbnail or a cover art for each individual episode of your iTunes podcast, video, audio podcast, whichever. Then the next step would be to go and take this to image size, image canvas size, and change it over to pixels. And I want it to be 1600 by 1600. And it's going to resize to a much larger looking thing. And I'm going to scale all this stuff. I'm grabbing these layers here because I need to like move them all or scale them all together. First things first, just let me just back out just a little bit. Okay, and all these are selected, so I'm going to scale. Smart filters applied, I know. All right. And now I'm basically scaling it to a 1:1 aspect ratio. That works. And that's the iTunes art. We're currently not doing this for our stuff, but I do this for our church. And then it's just a matter of file export as. iTunes wants smaller sizes and higher quality. I know it's ridiculous. So let's keep it at 60. We don't want to get up to a meg because then it could yell at you. And we want it to be 1600 because that was what the original was. It was 100%. They want 1400 to 2500 as the size. So 1400 by 1400 pixels, anywhere between that and 2500 to 2500 pixels for like the Retina displays and stuff like that. So that's what I'm going for here, 1600, and it's 60%. It's going to be a 500K file, and that is going to be iTunes. And there you go. We're done. Did that answer your question, sir?
Yep. I just wanted to see your process on that.
Cool. Anybody else? Nope. Good.